Hey nerds, what's up? It's time to discuss every difference between the novella and the TV show of our penultimate episode, or episode 5, of Knights of the Seven Kingdoms. As a reminder, this is meant to be informational, not critical. Let's get into it. So, they don't puke. Actually, instead, Sir Raymond makes this quip about how he has to change his sigil to not be confused with his cousin, and so he changes it to a green apple from a red apple, and then he says, "I fear I am still not ripe, but better green than wormy, eh?" So the first part of this fight is very accurate, and then I think I've said this before, but there's no flashbacks in the original novella. So this entire flashback is new to the show, and nothing that's in this flashback is mentioned in any way. So it's also like completely new in terms of like, we don't get commentary about this or even just like a passing line. I noticed that they're laying seeds of talking about the Blackfire Rebellion here, and even though that is not, as far as I remember, really in the first novella, you get a lot of information about the Blackfire Rebellion in the next two novellas, and so I think they're just laying the groundwork here, which is nice. So the rest of this fight lasts a lot longer in the show in terms of what actually happens back and forth. And it's kind of like a hard one-to-one because obviously when you read a fight, it goes much faster because time can pass differently in a novel than in the show. But even with that, it happens very differently. So like the first part of this fight is pretty accurate. Like he gets thrown off his horse and then he comes in with the mace to Dunk. But then after, Dunk gets the best of Arion pretty quickly. Dunk doesn't get hurt that much, and he also doesn't like slice Arion in the lake like that. And then there is no scene where Dunk is almost dead. Like that doesn't happen. You never think that Dunk is losing in that way. It pretty much goes to this scene almost immediately where he's bashing in Arion with his shield. So actually, as he's bashing him with his shield in the novella, you get one of my favorite quotes of the entire novella, so I am going to read it because that's my prerogative. And Dunk thinks in his head, "He could vanquish Sir Duncan the Tall, but not Dunk a flea bottom. The old man had taught him jousting and swordplay, but this sort of fighting he had learned earlier, in shadowy winds and crooked alleys behind the city's wine sinks." So this combo with everyone in Baylor is pretty close. It's just like a lot longer of a conversation. They go back and forth quite a bit. And one important quote that's said during this, so in the novella, Dunk is also kind of asking like, who survived? Is everyone okay? And he kind of goes down the list, and then he says, "His dream was wrong then, the dead dragon, unless Arion died. He didn't though, did he?" "No," said Egg, "you spared him, don't you remember?" So there's this callback to Darien's dream from earlier. Okay, so that was all the differences. So I don't think this episode was like a bad episode by any means, but if I were to rank all the episodes and, something has to come last, this comes last easily. Like, it's not a contest for me. I think it is the weakest episode of the season so far, in my opinion. It's not like I hate it. It's just some of the choices they made I don't think necessarily serve the show as much as I wished. And it's the first episode where I felt the runtime in terms of, oh, they are trying to make a novella stretch into 6 episodes. I feel like previously everything they've added, as you've seen, I've been a pretty big proponent of. I felt like it's added a lot to flesh out characters and do background and has really kind of stayed true to it for the most part. This is the first time where I was like, they really had to come up with something to get their episodes in. And that just kind of hurts it a little bit for me. So the first thing I want to say is if we were going to do this flashback, and I'm going to comment on the flashback in a second, but if we kept the flashback exactly how it is for the show, I sort of wish they would have done the bulk of the flashback as the opening to the show, up until maybe when he is going to follow Sir Arlen, because I feel like it takes a lot of wind out of the scene. The opening scene is like, they do such a good job. It's so tense. I want to say I love the opening shot, and the sound design is incredible through the whole episode. The sound design of the fighting is just impeccable. So you build all of this suspense and tension, and maybe this is because I was a book reader first, but I am so anticipatory for what's about to happen. And so then for the first time him go down and he blacks out, and then you just stop dead to have this entire flashback, really, in my opinion, took a lot of momentum out of the fight. I did love the moment when Sir Arlen's like, "Get up," and then he opens. Like, that is a great moment, but I don't think it was worth how much momentum we lost. So my idea being, if you did all this stuff with his friend, at the beginning, then cut to the scene of it starting, and then he blacks out, and then maybe you have just a couple minutes of him following Sir Arlen and then get up, I feel like maybe we wouldn't have lost momentum quite as much. However, that being said, I actually don't think this flashback served the story. I think a flashback could have worked really well, and there's some things I wish they would have focused on, but this flashback didn't do any of that. I don't think we learned anything new about Dunk. I don't think we learned anything new about the world. I don't think it accomplished much. I think the previous flashbacks taught us more about how Dunk sees the world in a fraction of the time. Previously, the flashbacks I feel like has mostly been used to show how maybe the way Dunk views the world isn't always reality. He has like a little bit more of a rosier view. And it showed a little bit of him and Sir Arlen's relationship in very fast ways that I think really got across a lot. This one I felt the whole time like, why did we need Dunk to have this motivation? Like, what does that add to his character? In my opinion, really nothing. What I was really disappointed about is I thought this flashback was going to serve to set up that favorite moment in the novella when Sir Duncan is like, I don't know why I just call him Sir Duncan. When Dunk is like, I might not be a knight, I can't beat you in jousting in the sword, but I am from Flea Bottom, dang it, and I know how to Flea Bottom fight. So I thought this whole flashback was actually going to be showing him fighting just like that, maybe not with a shield, but with something else, to get that across when he does that to Arian, that like he is using his history in Flea Bottom to do that. But that's not the direction they went at all. And because of that, I felt like it just kind of felt like a time waste. I don't really feel like it taught us anything new. I think everything they tried to accomplish was accomplished earlier in the season in a shorter amount of time. I'm really bummed they didn't incorporate that Flea Bottom scene for a particular reason, which is other things I've kind of done in the show or it's connected. It's like, again, they didn't have that scene last episode that I talked about all of the common folk like praising Dunk and giving him flowers for standing up for one of them. By removing that, by removing his connection to Flea Bottom and the way he fights, I feel like we've just missed that element of the common folk in this whole kind of contrast between this Targaryen that's out of touch and the common folk and what that tension is. I think they've done a really good job of showing that Targaryen side. Like the whole conversation with Raymond, was that last episode, the episode before, was just so excellent. But they've kind of haven't had that other piece of it that I think would be beneficial. I understand the flashback was to show similarities to how Egg and him drew a relationship, and they had this similarity with Egg and how he says to get up. I just don't think that runtime necessarily justified what we got out of it. I also weirdly think, I want to know if other people felt this way. And this is specifically something I want to ask non-novella readers, because I do wonder if there's a huge difference in people who have experienced and read the book versus those who haven't, is the way they lengthened the fight actually took wind out of the fight for me. The way that he almost dies weirdly made the surrender of Arian feel anticlimactic. Like when he finally says he yields, I was shocked that I didn't feel as much as I feel in the novel. I don't know why that is, because when I went into this episode, to be clear, I thought the episode was going to be a majority of fighting. I actually thought they were going to lengthen the fight quite a bit. And so I was prepared for that. And I thought there was a lot of ways they could have done it. I don't necessarily think it was quite as impactful the way they did it. I kind of wanted to see maybe some of the other people fighting. Let's have a scene about Darian purposely flopping. Let's look a little bit about Baelor and how he's fighting. Like, I thought that was how they were going to expand it. I just don't know. It's like, I don't hate it. It somehow removed momentum again. I think the fight just lost a little bit of momentum the way it played out. I just also really wish they included the line, his dream was wrong. If you're going to introduce the dream and have a whole thing about that, it's really important to say it after that Dunk is relieved that the dream is wrong, and then the shock of Baelor being the one to die is like a big deal. This was actually the episode I think suffered most from the fact that it is a film medium and we cannot be in Dunk's head. I didn't realize how much being in Dunk's head during the fight really colors the fight. The whole time, Dunk is berating himself, how could I think I was ever a knight? How could I think I was somebody? To culminating in that, hey, I'm from Flea Bottom and I know how to fight like Flea Bottom. And then to hear his inner relief that only one person died, people aren't hurt because of me. There is a softness and a real explanation of who Dunk is as a character that just felt the most missing here. And this actually I don't think is necessarily the show's fault. I think during a fighting scene, like, how are you really going to do that? Going to have them talk out loud, have them talk to horses? There's not really a way to do it. So in this case, I don't really blame the showrunners. I don't know what you would do. I think the only thing they could have done is perhaps utilize the flashback better. But it is one of those interesting things where, like, I think they've done a pretty good job up until this point to try to make up for that pretty hard in a fight, and I noticed it. I feel like Dunk's character is not as soft as he is because you don't have those inner thoughts. The cinematography was still great. Like I said, the sound design was incredible. Some of the shots are just so beautiful. This is just the episode that suffered the most for me. Again, I'm not like angry at any of it. I'm not mad at any of it. I'm not like watching it being like, that was a terrible decision. It's more just overall, I feel like it wasn't as strong of an adaptation as the other episodes. And I feel like a little something was lost in translation. If you are just a show watcher, I'd love to know if it comes off totally different for you. If you didn't feel like the momentum was killed, if you felt like you gained something, I'd love that perspective. If you are a novella reader, I'd love to know if you felt similarly to me and if that's how we all feel or if I'm crazy. Yep, I am really excited for the final episode. I will say, I predicted this episode pretty well. Other than the flashback was way longer than I expected, I said, I bet this whole episode is going to be the fight with maybe a mini flashback and it's going to end in Baylor dying. And I just totally called that. So I do feel like they did that part nice, and now the next episode's going to be all the fallout. So I'm really curious to see how that works out. Tell me your thoughts. And as always, if you like these kind of videos, please like and subscribe. That is the best way to support me. And if you want to see what I'm currently reading, as well as other nerdy rants, you can check me out on Instagram at bookborn.reviews. I'll see you next time. Bye.